Hey guys, I've been Challenger since set 3. There was a new patch recently, and as always, I'll be giving you guys a concise TLDR on how to climb in patch 16.2. So the meta has actually changed drastically since the last one, but the main things you need to know is that there is a new level 9 board that you must know how to play. It revolves around Zig, Set, and Rise. This board is very similar to the Any board. The strength is around the same, but it's a lot more consistent because you're guaranteed one copy of each just from unlocking them. And the rest of the board that this comp plays is very cheap. You're playing around units like Caitlyn, Vi, Mundo. All of the emblems also got buffed. They got more stats, so they actually act like real items now, which also indirectly buffs Rise because you're more incentivized to click the augments that give you emblems, and you basically get to play around Rise easier. Fizz right now is also very strong in the current meta. You can play Fizz from like the Yordle tree or the Bilge tree. And because of that, a lot of the comps that aren't able to survive a one-shot from Fizz in the backline are not that good, which actually puts Demacia in a very good spot because their backline already has like a lot of built-in magic resist that could actually survive the Fizz one-shot. Bilge is also S tier right now. It could also be like 2 to 3 way contested because there's literally 4 different ways you could play this. You could tempo with like a 3-star Illaoi, Graves, or TF, or if you hit an early MF, you could go straight to 9. And the last thing is, I think loose streaking feels pretty bad right now. They nerfed Bard and they nerfed Diana. I have not found like a good loose streak comp to play yet. And without Bard now, it makes losing a lot worse because if you start the game at 1 life at stage 4 like you used to, you could easily just take 1 bad loss from Fizz and you're like guaranteed 8th. So let's talk a little bit about the early game and line selection. So the 3 main lines that you want to default to is going to be Ziggs and Rise, Bilge, and Demacia. In a standard lobby, typically there's going to be 2 players each lobby playing each of these lines. You're left with 2 remaining players that are going to find some other random line to play, like maybe Reroll Echo or Ionia or Void. With this in mind, there's a few early game units that you really want to look to hold. So there's going to be Illaoi TF for the Bilgewater package. If you get a TF, it's very free, usually free top 4. If you have a good econ opener for Ionia, or if you get like the EXP or the gold Ionia, you can look to hold the Shen or the Jin. You only want to play around Yordles if you have like most of the Yordles. Like, so for example, if you only have like a 1-star Lulu and like a 1-star Tristana, I would probably not even bother holding the Yordles in the first place because this opener is only valuable if you're able to like easily unlock 4 Yordles at 2-1 and you have like a decent board. If you don't get like this type of opener, you're just going to bleed too much HP and you're not even going to get to the Ziggs Rise. So it's sort of like an all or nothing opener. And finally, Sona and J4 is very, very good as well for the reasons I said above. So in the tier list, in the S tier, we have Bilgewater. There's 2 variants listed here. I think the Illaoi and the TF variants are better. Graves did take a nerf, but it's still good in my opinion if you like natural and early Graves too and you have a QSS. So that one is in the A tier. The other comp in S tier is obviously Ziggs and Rise. The 2 other comps that are in A tier are going to be both Demacia variants, and there's also these comps that are quite good as well. So vertical Yordles I would only play if you're able to force 2 death caps. So for example, Pandora's items, there's also another augment that gives you like a bunch of rods. So you could look to play towards Veigar, Ziggs, and Fizz if you get this. Shadow Owls is also quite good as well if you get an early Viego 2. Reroll Vanquishers, you only play from like a High Roll Slayer opener. You go for a 3-star Gangplank at level 8. And then also Reroll Echo, if you're able to find a way to 3-star your Echo very easily, you could tempo around Echo and then go 8 and play for top 4. I have not included these comps in this video because the video will be too long, but I will likely release a week 2 guide once the meta settles in a little bit more and cover these comps as well. Okay, so let's talk about the new level 9 Fast 9 board. The board is just going to look like this. It's actually pretty straightforward. I would say that the only thing you need to know is that you need to hold on to these 3 specific units throughout the game, starting at the mid game, even if you have to sack some econ for it. Because typically, as I said before, you're either playing into this from the Ionia opener or the Yordle opener. These units don't really fit into your board very naturally, and you need these 3 exact units to unlock Rise at level 9. If you don't, it is very difficult. Because it's going to be hard to find the Vi and the Caitlyn on your level 9 roll down. The other thing you need to know is that you typically want to unlock Kennen at stage 3-7. That's the reason why I recommend playing into this specific comp from the Ionia or Yordle opener, because the Kennen unlock happens very naturally as you play your strongest board. you technically like can play into this comp without those two openers. It's just that you kind of need to hold some units that are very unnatural just to unlock the cannon. If you don't unlock the cannon, it is very, very hard to unlock the Rise at level 9, and you're usually just going to go 8th. Regarding the Ionia opener, typically you could play into it from like around a 2-star Jin or a 2-star Shen, but the items for Jin don't like directly transfer over to the Ziggs. One that does transfer over is going to be the Guinsu's. So FYI, best in slot Ziggs is going to be Guinsu's plus 2 damage items. But if you slam like the typical like Krakens or IE, it's more difficult. Like you can't really play into this comp anymore due to your item economy. And in that case, you just play into Yunara. So typically, it's actually better to carry the Ahri early game because her item transition naturally flows over to Rise and Ziggs late game. So that's one thing. And for the Yordles, it's typically better to carry the Teemo. If you carry that Tristana with the exact item setup that Rise and Ziggs has, it's pretty bad, I would say. You actually lose a lot of mid-game fights that you're not supposed to, as opposed to just itemizing the Teemo instead. So that's like another condition for like the Yordle opener. Typically, you only want to play into the Yordle opener into Rise Ziggs if you're playing around the Teemo. But otherwise, level 9 comp is very straightforward. Basically, right before stage 5-1, you want to prep your turn to unlock Rise, Ziggs, and Set at the same time. So you basically level to 9, but you don't roll. You just set up your board like this. You place 3 items on like a Zon or a Yordle unit, and you place 1 unit in the front line. And then you make sure to have 4 region traits in, and you get all 3 of these 1 copy at the same time. And then you just do a Giga roll down, and you try to hope to like hit a Set 2, Wukong 2, and 1 of Ziggs 2 or Rise 2 to stabilize. So Bis is going to be Guinsu's plus 2 on Ziggs, like I said before, and Rise just holds your utility items. So let's talk a bit about Bilgewater. This is an S tier comp, and it actually has been heavily optimized since my last video on how to play it. So I'm going to go through sort of the thought process you should have when piloting this comp, because there's now like 4 different ways to play it. So basically, when you're playing Bilgewater, the way you should be thinking about it is that it's actually a tempo comp, and at certain points in the game, you need to have like a certain condition fulfilled. So one example is like by stage 5, you usually want to have Tahm Kench unlocked because you want to start feeding him as early as possible, because that's how you win the game and start outscaling people. But to have Tahm Kench unlocked by stage 5, you usually need to play 7 Bilgewater the entirety of stage 4. Previously, when you did that, you just lost a ton of HP, but players have discovered that you could actually survive stage 4 by taking only 1 or 2 losses if you have a 3-star Bilgewater at this point. So that's the other checkpoint. By stage 4-1, you usually want to have some 3-star unit to stabilize you, because you don't want to roll too deep because you need to go 9 by stage 5, which means that at stage 2 and 3, you want to put all of your Bilgewater tokens into the cheap stat shards and the unit upgrades and resources to start 3-starring the unit of your choice, which is going to be either Illaoi, Graves, or TF. The decision on which unit you want to 2-star or 3-star depends a lot on your like item economy and your early game shop. So like, for example, if you natural a lot of Illaois, maybe you want to go for Illaoi. If you natural like a lot of Graves, then you want to go for Graves and you have like a QSS. Graves did get nerfed in the recent patch, but I do think it's still good because the goal of 3-starring your unit is to primarily survive stage 4 to farm enough shards to get like 1 item and unlock TK, if that makes sense. Some general tips on Bilgewater is you usually like the shop priority is you want to buy the thing that gives you the most power on your board right now for the cheapest amount you need to spend. So sometimes that's just 2-starring an Illaoi, or sometimes that's like buying a Captain's Brew or 2-starring like your TF. Once you already have a 2-star board and like you bought all of the cheap efficient stat shards, then you want to start working towards like your first like 3-star unit, because your next goal is to survive stage 4, because you don't want to just take 80 damage for free here. By the time you get your 3-star unit, then you go to 8, you get Fizz for free, and you just roll for 1 copy of MF. Then you can play 7 Bilge, and then your 3-star Bilgewater unit should be able to save you a lot of HP to go into stage 5, cap out, and try to win with TK, if that makes sense. Generally, you really only want to buy like 1 item from the tier 2 shop. If you're really high rolling, you go for 2, but typically your resources are actually better allocated into the stat shards, because you can really only put 3 items on like your carry anyway, which is Fizz or MF. The stat shards are actually going to be cheaper and they boost your unit more because they put a lot more power into one unit. And right now, Fizz is just able to completely one-shot their backline. Let's go into what the comps actually look like right now. Okay, so if you're playing around the 3-star Illaoi, the main line you want to default to is going to be around Rise. But if you're not rich enough, you could also play around this variant, which is for Bruiser. I'm going to go through the Rise one first. Basically, the strength of 3-star Illaoi is it lets you unlock the Volibear basically for free. So when you're at level 8, stage 4, all you need to do is play 4 Bruiser. That gives you the Kobuko and Volibear unlock for free. If you have 1 HP item on Illaoi, it gives her enough HP. But even though you have 4 Bruiser at that point, I think you're still supposed to play 7 Bilge throughout stage 4. Because, like I said before, unlocking TK is a checkpoint that you need to meet. And you need him before you even want to think about playing into the Rise Ward because you need his traits. So play 7 Bilge stage 4, but set up your minion round before stage 5 to unlock Rise next turn. So what you need to do to unlock Rise is you just need to roll for, you level to 9, you just roll for, hopefully you're holding 2 other Freljord units and 1 Targon. Just slot them in and you'll unlock Rise next turn. Sometimes you have to do this at stage 5 too, which is okay. But then once you unlock the Rise, then you do a big roll down and try to 2-star Volley, TK, and Rise. The good thing about this comp is that Rise benefits a lot from all the stat shards you bought from Bilge, and he's able to use a lot of the Bilgewater items. So whatever item you previously bought, you just stick it onto Rise. So the item transition kind of looks like this. So typically, mid-game, you have like JG Hodge on Fizz. The Hodge could just go on the Volibear, and the JG could just go on the Rise. You might have like a Shojin on your TF or MF. It could go on your Rise as well. And then Lysandra just hold all of your TF utility items, like Void Staff, Red Buff. All your tank items just go to your TK when you 2-star him. So sometimes you don't have enough money to get to this board because Rise is pretty expensive, and you are looking for like 4 entirely new units. So it's completely okay to just stick with 4 Bruiser. 4 Bruiser also has a high cap as well. Like Rise is a much higher roll version, but this one is more consistent because you don't need to flip half of your board. And this comp could still win out because your win con is TK and like the build shop. If you're playing around the 3-star grades instead, you're playing a bit more standard. You don't need to worry about Rise. Typically, you only drop down to 5 Bilge. And then if you don't have MF2 yet, feel free to drop the MF and just have your second Gunslinger as Lucian. If you already have MF2, you just play like 3 Gunslinger with the 1-star Lucian. It's fine. Alternatively, you could drop like one of your other Bilgewater units like TF or Nautilus. I don't like dropping the TF because TF is typically the best spreader of Captain's Brew. And typically you're dual carrying your Fizz. So Fizz Bis is going to be JG Hodge +1. And he holds a lot of the Bilgewater AP items very well, like Black Market's Explosives. I like placing him on this Hex or this Hex. I think I've had the most success with him on these because it snipes their backline very well. Finally, if you're playing around 3-star TF, your board is going to be very similar. It's just going to look like this. TF is going to stay on your board for sure, and you're just going to be dual carrying the Fizz and the TF. Pretty straightforward. So the last comp I'll be covering is going to be the 2 Demacia variants. It's going to be Reroll, J4, and Sona, or it's going to be Tempo Demacia. I'll go to the Reroll one first. Basically, for the Reroll one, the way you want to think about it is any spot where you used to be able to play T-Hex, you could apply that same situation to this comp as well. Because this comp revolves around you 3-starring 2 early game 1-cost units. So, for example, On a Roll is very good. Lets you get these 3-star units for free if you play correctly. Any augment that gives you a bunch of free rerolls to unlock Bard is also quite good. Bard did get nerfed, but it's still good in this comp because if you lose in the early game, you get 1 reroll as usual. But if you win, you're very likely to get a copy of J4 or Sona, which is quite good in this comp. So your game plan is you only want to reroll this if you get like the augment and you have a good J4 or Sona start. You econ up, try to unlock Bard, roll until 33 gold at level 4, 8 out of 10 EXP, and then you slow roll above 50 gold at level 5. If you're only like 1 or 2 copies away from J4 or Sona, I'm down to just all in to try to stabilize your board a bit. Like even if you're able to just 3-star 1 unit and you're like 1 away from Sona, chances are your Bard has a pretty good chance of getting your last 3-star unit if you win. And the 3-star Jarvan typically allows you to win. Once you unlock like both of these units, you go to 7. Sometimes it's okay to slight roll to unlock Galio because Typically, it's harder to unlock Galio if you're playing Tempo because you need to 2-star your entire board. But J4 and Sona actually allow you to hit Galio ahead of Tempo because you're up 2 entire star levels. So sometimes it's correct to slight roll at level 7 just to stabilize you a bit and then go 8. The other variation you want to know how to play is going to be just around the Vayne. So typically you play into this if you get an early Vayne drop because it saves you a lot of HP. Vayne is a very good unit early. And her best item is going to be Krakens plus Gunblade plus 1. I think if you don't have Krakens, it's fine. So like, let's say you have to slam a Gwinsu's. I'm down to just duo carry the Kaisa and the Lux because I think that if you don't have Krakens on Vayne, it does make her significantly weaker. But typically your level 8 board is going to look like this. And you do want to play around the Sona and all of the shitter Demacias because you need to unlock the Galio first. Once you unlock the Galio, then you could take out the Sona and then you play around the Swain. So this comp has changed in the latest patch because you now have access to cap out with Ziggs. Ziggs was not as good before, but once you hit your entire 2-star board, you just go 9, you unlock the Ziggs, and you try to 2-star your Galio and your Ziggs, and then you can play for top 2. But it is a little difficult to get to that point because typically, unless you're super high rolling, you are just going to lose out to the max cap Bilgewater players. But the good thing about this comp is that your Lux, your Vayne are pretty good at surviving the Fizz one-shots from Bilgewater, which is why this comp is very good. So that sums up my week 1 flex guide for patch 16.2. It is still early in the patch, and it might take some time for some comps to settle in. I do think the meta will change in a couple of days because everything's so different. But if you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to my YouTube channel. You also get updates on my next guide, and drop a follow on my Twitch if you found this helpful. Thank you.